In this episode, I'm going to show you the best way to complain.
You're here because you want more engagement, more delight, more fun, more learning. You're hungry for change and willing to take action.
If you're not prepared to be wrong, you'll never come up with anything original.
Welcome to the eLearning Scenario Design Podcast with Anna Sabramowitz.
I'm going to show you how great I am.
Let's take learning to the next level.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to another podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope I can make your day a little bit better. Yes, you heard it right. I'm going to help you to complain better. And mostly it's about, being an instructional designer and a scenario designer. And I just flew back in from some team building and workshops in Kingston, Ontario. For those of you who are not familiar with Kingston, Ontario, it is really close to Toronto and Montreal. And believe it or not, where I live in British Columbia, if you actually wanted to fly to Kingston, Jamaica, it would actually be cheaper. I don't know why. I should have just, why not? I should have just said, I accidentally booked Kingston, Jamaica. Anyways, so I'm here to tell you some magical things about how to complain. All right, so this is actually something that I've written a long time ago, and it's still true today, and I feel like it's even more true because this kind of this has not changed over the past few years, and I really wanted to start really pushing everybody to work with me and start complaining in the right way about what they do for work. So let me just give you a bit of context here. So, and over the past few years, as I started, it's been more than a few years now. Since I started YouTube, since I started doing all these things, what happened is, people will watch a video of mine that shows them some sort of strategy, and they'll say that it's not possible for them. And this is a complaint that I get from a lot of different people from different industries, and it comes up. And this is like a common gripe. It goes something like this: I get respect at my organization. I take my work very seriously. I'm one of those lifelong learners. I'm always introducing new things, and I work super hard to create learning that produces value. And, I've spent a big chunk of my life studying this and being a huge proponent of sound instructional design and scenario use when it is needed. Also, I go to those webinars and conferences where I learn about gamification and user experience and learner psychology, and then I'm a professional, but I'm not treated like one. Or people, I have to continue selling people on why some strategies are better than others, and sometimes they don't. Just one of the things is, just let me do my job. Why don't they just let me do my job? And so I'm always asking them why they feel this way, and I usually get something like, over the last few years, the amount of content that I'm expected to cram into a course or a scenario or an online module seems to be increasing with each and every project. So, my boss or my clients, if you work for yourself, they tell me that they need a piece of learning yesterday, and I always have to rush to get it done. And one of the worst things is that I'm always told to make it as affordable as possible because there's two other people competing with me. And beyond that, while my workload is growing, the budgets for the projects seem to be stagnant or actually moving in the opposite direction of big. And or basically that my SMEs don't get it, and I'm forced to keep producing learning that I'm not proud of. How do I fix this? And obviously, what I just said is heavily paraphrased, but that's the gist of it, right? And I don't know if it rings true for you, but I hope I don't know if you can resonate with that, but it's definitely something that where I've been myself. And I know how frustrating it can be to be pushed into a corner like this. Basically, you're being told how to do your job from people who don't have a good understanding of what it actually takes to create effective learning, whether online or off. So, are you ready for my advice? Here it is. Quit being such a pushover. Ha ha. You're like, oh, easy for you to say, Anna. I'm being super serious. And here's what I mean. I want you to start avoiding those places where there's like this cooler or streams where people complain about their subject matter experts, where people complain about how their work is not respected. Those are not great places to hang out. You need to start hanging out and being around people who take ownership of the fact that a lot of those things, a lot of the way that we're treated is mostly our fault. Here's what I mean. I don't mean it's you. It's actually not. I don't think it's actually being fair to you, because I think that other professions kind of, like, let's be honest, other professions, like if you finish a certificate in medicine, nobody's gonna, or you kind of enter with that credibility, right? So it's very hard for us who have, either years of experience mixed with this, even if you have like masters and all this stuff, people will tell you how they think it should be done, because everybody thinks that they're an expert in learning because they once used to go to school and they know how it's done. So one of the things that we too often do is we don't speak up or stand up as learning professionals, especially when more work is dumped on our desks, and it's not only that more work is dumped on our work is dumped on our plates because we're actually doing so much more. It's not that we're not necessarily capable of doing it all, but work that we probably shouldn't even be doing at all, because it's not the kind of work that leverages our true talents. And I mean, I want to be really honest here. Some of us like transcription, for example. Like, I'll hear people talking about the fact that they transcribe things on their own. Okay, why are you transcribing subject matter expert interviews by yourself? Like, that's a $30 cost, let's say, for like a 30-minute interview, but it'll take you like a day to do it, because that's how tedious it is. So you're willing to spend a day doing mind-numbing work instead of having a machine transcribe it, and then now working with even a script where they actually can automatically take out filler words. So if you complain about that, I'm sorry, that's your issue. You're not saying, hey, I add value in this area. This is where I can, like, strategy is my thing, whatever. And I hear this from all kinds of like professionals, and I think it comes from when we haven't sat down and said, you know what, this is where I add the most value, and I refuse to do this because I'm actually costing you money in the wrong way. I'm actually not adding value. And if you suffer in silence and you don't say anything, you just grit your teeth and keep on going, it's, we deserve what you get. You deserve what you get. I deserve what I get. When I'm okay with doing that kind of work when I could leverage somebody else to help me to get that done. And the other thing that we'll get is a skewed perception of what an instructional designer not only can handle, but the kind of work that you'll be doing in the future, right? Like, people are like, oh yeah, it's cool. Why don't we just send all of our interviews to Anna so she can transcribe them by herself? I mean, isn't that what she does? No, my job is to analyze the what came out of that interview and then decide which pieces of that will make a phenomenal scenario. None of you can do that, because none of you can think that way, because none of you have done the studying of the models and the pieces that I know will contribute to a good learning experience. So yeah, let's hand that off to somebody else who doesn't need to think when they're doing it. The other thing is that I think it's just hard to blame your boss these days. I'm sorry, or your peers. Like, nobody at my company will pay me more to do this, or I can't. They won't pay for the software. Okay, listen, it's you. If you don't push back, you're basically, one, expecting people to read your mind because you haven't shared it, and also. Instructional design is relatively, it's a young profession. I know there's people out there who've been doing it for years and years, but instructional design, as far as like when you tell people, what do you do? And you say, I'm an instructional designer, a scenario developer, or a multimedia developer. People have no clue. Like, to them, everything is like, when I say instructional designer, I put courses up online, everybody thinks I code stuff. Like, nobody knows what instructional design is. But our goal, our mission should be that we not only bring this profession to light, but we start demanding the kind of the expectations for ourselves go up, so that we can start saying, this is a profession, it is peer reviewed, it is vetted, we are open about what we do, we are critical, we are supportive, just like they do in the medical community. What they do with surgeons is they will get together, and we don't even do this. They get together, life or death. They will review surgeries, peer review surgeries, and they will see the play-by-play of how each surgery went to see if they can learn something from it. And the person who, let's say, did a surgery in the wrong way, they'll be given advice on how to fix it and how to not make that mistake happen again. That's life or death, right? So they're still willing to even revisit problems. And that's obviously professionally. Initially, that would be like, oh gosh, people are judging me because I killed that guy in a surgery. But let's get over ourselves. We're not doing anything that, like, we're not using a scalpel. We're typing and talking into a computer. So imagine that being our next step, is just to really hold ourselves accountable and find other people who are willing to be honest with us and say, hey, what are we doing to improve this? And it's not my boss, it's not my peers. Oh, everybody's not, I don't care. Don't worry about it. Let's think of you. Let's think of how you can get awesome. And if your boss won't buy you software, first of all, everything is free for at least 2 weeks. Even branch track. And also, when I think about all the stuff that we blow money on, for you to actually have the kind of software that you want, I'm thinking, I broke it down already for another class I was running because people are like, oh, I want to start with free stuff. And I'm like, you definitely can, but you get what you pay for. So with free things, usually there's if you buy software, you have to keep on either buying or using a poo-poo version, or you don't have the full functionality. If you want to become a master at something, invest in yourself. How much your course is. Sometimes courses are like, $2,000 for a one-day course to do something. While for less than that, you could have access to software for a full year, and the community that comes with it, and the other professionals that are developing things with it. So I'm not saying you have to choose specific software, but if you really want to get good at something, or your workplace won't provide you with the tools that you need, then go out and get them, my friend, because they're there for you. You need to invest in yourself. Imagine in a year you've been building scenarios, and even if you didn't get paid for it, do you think your value as a professional would grow? Of course, as Jim Rohn would say, this is one of those of course moments. So don't suffer in silence. Say what you're going to do and do it. And then start learning those skills, because they're going to be something that you get to take with you. They're not something that somebody needs to grant you. You can do that on your own time. Guess what? You want to get better at it and you don't have time at work because you're slam busy? Well, next Sunday afternoon, instead of barbecuing, get to work and start building some scenarios so you can get them reviewed by a colleague or a learner and launch them. Would that make a difference? Heck yeah. Would people love you and start to notice the fact that you're, even in your spare time, you're trying to add value? Why not? That's awesome. The next month, maybe every lunch, you get together with a couple of people at your company and say, you guys, let's pitch in so we can all have access to this one software, and let's spend our lunch hours. Let's not go out. Let's bring sandwiches and make it a working lunch and start building things and see if we can build something cool and quick. Every lunch hour we create a quick prototype and test it. Why not? We got to be doing more of that proactive stuff instead of waiting for other people to give us permission to get awesome. So, and then why I said, the best way to complain, because one of the things, and I think this totally came from like the web world, which I only got introduced to because I started working with Ryan, my partner, and Ryan is very much comes from this world of like, he was in the .com startups and he was there from the very, very beginning. He's one of those kids that got really excited about the internet while the rest of us were still like, what? Netscape? So he was there building sites for like some awesome brands. And he also learned a lot about, and it became his passion, usability, user experience, all those kinds of things. And so one of the things that I'd like us to get to as instructional designers is the kind of, respect that the top designers in web have. And it's not that, like, if I mentioned the top designer or the top developer in the web world, you probably wouldn't know who that is, because that person is a leader in their own niche, in their own industry. So they're not superstars they're not celebrities in the common world. They're celebrities in their domain. And I don't know exactly who said this, but everybody would complain about like the web looking like the 80s, like, how it was unusable, ugly sites, blah, blah, blah. And then I guess what happened is their motto was the best way to complain. If you don't see something, don't just poop on it. Build your own awesome website. Build your own awesome prototype. And that's what I want us to do here. There's a lot of times we say, oh, these things aren't so great. Look at this terribleness. Like it's, we either, like, it depends on which community you're a part of. Either it's terrible and we don't really say anything. We just smile and say awesome, and can you give us your free file? Or we just, in the back channels, we complain about how our industry is, we're not pushing the envelope, or people are trying to use, like I said, AI before we have even like figured out how to write great multiple choice questions. It's just, that kind of stuff. So what I want us to do is start complaining by building things that are awesome and that matter. And we've got to show them that we can. And when I say them, all the naysayers, all those people that think that they know what they're doing, all the people that think that they know about color schemes, or all the software companies that that want to tell us how to design things and what looks good, and groupthink. I want all those people to be shown what great learning looks like, and then have nothing to say other than, "Can I have one of those too, please?" That would be the best compliment, because you don't want to hate on those people. We actually want to help them realize that if they let us do what we do best, then that just makes them look better, because their message will go further, their training will go further, the behavior change will happen, because we're actually doing what we're supposed to do, which is to take all their wonderful and magical subject matter expertise and vision and turn that into amazing learning that's a part of, that's going to get somebody excited, that's going to get somebody motivated to actually go out and actually apply. So it really is in everyone's best interest, but we might be approaching it the wrong way if we think everybody else is our enemy when we start a project, or when we feel like the subject matter expert obviously does not understand us because they don't understand, software development. Who cares? Let that go. That's not their job. That's not their first language. Your first language is scenarios. You know what? Start proving it. Start showing some work. And the other thing is, you want that work reviewed and you want to get better at it. Start putting it out to people and do it quickly and do it quick and dirty so that they can actually give you feedback and you be okay with it, because every single time somebody does, it makes you better at what you do. It's like every time a surgeon kills somebody in surgery, makes him a better surgeon. Just kidding. Okay. So I'm not sure why I feel like many learning professionals act a little timid. And I don't know if it's our mix of experiences and we're unsure of it, or if it's just hard to point to things that are awesome, or there's just a lot of pressure. We're not recognized as the professionals that we are. But let me just tell you, we're soon going to be doing 70-hour weeks, and we're going to be doing basically transcribing conversations about things that don't matter and converting manuals into things that don't matter. So we have to step up and start showing them things that matter and that are like, that we're building on, that we're iterating on and getting better at. So I don't want anybody to think that I haven't been there and that I still, every week, I don't have to push back with clients because everybody, and it's also, what starts happening is as you start putting out great work, the people that are drawn to you and drawn to your work and see that value, those people are going to get, there's going to be more and more of those people. And so what happens is then you can start becoming the kind of person who, instead of just taking on whatever is brought on to them and saying, okay, I can take it, or I need to take it because, our department doesn't see any work. If you're in a department now that it's consulting, instead of being like the dumping ground for, convert this into learning online, then what happens is you get to start choosing how you dictate those projects, because you have now shown, here's 15 activities I built in the last year. Here's the impact they've had. Here's the feedback we've gotten. We've standardized this process. We've standardized how well we can deliver this, how quickly, what kind of conversations I need to have. And this is what I do. This is what I'm really good at. If you want something else, then hire somebody who can translate this for you into an e-learning, but it's not going to be our department, because what we do here is we focus on actual behavior change learning and scenarios, because we know that works. There you go. I know that sounds tough right now, but basically you just want to get there. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't happen in a day. It's culture changing, it's all those things. But I know that through trial and error, it starts inside. It starts with you, how you feel about yourself and what you do about it, because just feeling about something about yourself is not enough. You have to actually show it through persistence. And I hope that you let me know, either send me an email, Anna@eLearnerEngaged, or comment or whatever, to let me know if this resonated with you. I mean, I used to be like the person who wore their I worked my butt off as a badge of honor. And, I'd have bosses come up to me and be like, yeah, you're a workhorse. That's great. But nobody was coming up to me and saying, hey, is this really the best way for us to use your brain? Because I could get somebody else to this other stuff, but I know you're really good at scenario strategy and talking to people to get stories out. Nobody does that, because nobody knows that's your secret superpower, right? Nobody knows that that's where you add the super value, that nobody can really do that unless you initiate it. So it's our job to make everybody aware of what our superpower is, and the way we can make them aware is by actually showing them pieces that are working and that draw out the superpowers that you have as a designer, as a developer, as an instructional designer. So it's funny. This can work for you. and I always think about the lawyer analogy. Like, if you, let's say you, I don't know why I'm bringing up these really morbid examples, but let's say you killed somebody. It was by accident, of course. And what happened is you got, you were assigned, or maybe you got to choose a lawyer, right? And the lawyer comes in, he has like all this experience, all these ideas. He's done cases before where, he's experienced lawyer. And then you're like, no, listen, I'm going to tell you how we're going to do this. And then the guy would be like, you know what, why don't you just defend yourself? Why don't you just do it yourself? Because I'm here to provide you with counsel. And I know what's best. I'm going to present these options. And some of them you're not going to like. And some of them you're not even going to think of because you're not the pro in law. So I want you to also think about, imagine if you had that meeting with that lawyer and he said, what do you think we should do? Or let's do what you want. I think you might respect that lawyer less if they came in and you're like, what am I paying you for? I thought you were the pro. I thought you were the expert, right? So we're not lawyers, but we have to, I say, let's start acting like lawyers, which is skilled professionals, experts in what we do, trusted advisors. I'm sure there's other things people think about lawyers, but let's just drop that because that's negative. I don't like that stuff. I mean, there's lawyers who do a lot of great work. And I think if collectively we can all start doing this, like thinking about like how can I add value to each of these situations, and how can I make myself better, and how can I improve my skills and have some sort of almost portfolio of awesomeness that I can show that will collectively add value to me, add value to my company, add value to my team, add value to my profession. Think about that. If we suffer in silence, we deserve what we get. It doesn't have to be this way. So, and also, I want to ask you, I think that our community needs to be supportive of each other, but also supportive of people who are trying to grow and stretch themselves. And so if you have a friend who you think would benefit from listening to this podcast, go for it, share it with them. That would be such a big compliment to me. And if you like what you're hearing, or you have any comments or any other scenario design questions that you'd like me to address, please email me, Anna@eLearnerEngaged, and I will reply to your to your email between my travels in the most exotic cities in Canada. Sometimes I go to the US too. And let me know if there's anything that I can help with. I hope you have a wonderful day, rest of the day, and I hope this was helpful to you. And I will, my friend, talk to you next week. Take care.
You're listening to the eLearning Scenario Design Podcast with Anna Sabramowitz.